All right, here we go. So if you don't have your graphic organizer, it's peach colored, but I've also got some yellow and white ones printed. I don't know where they all are, but they're over there. So this is what it looks like. So today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting. So it says, first of all, if you have subtraction, you need to change to addition. Change to addition. Distribute the negative across the numerator. Do not forget that. Then when we add fractions, we have to have a least common denominator. And it's really important to make sure you note excluded values. Okay. So it's easiest to find your least common denominator if you leave these in factored form. Let me say again. It's easiest to find the least common denominator if you leave these in factored form. So I'm going to just make this super huge, and we're going to do this first one. So how can I factor x squared minus 9x plus 20? How does that factor? Good job. So I'm factoring the denominator x minus 5, x minus 4. Does everybody see that? So I've just replaced that. Okay. Let's factor this denominator. What is x squared minus 6x plus 8? How does that factor? X minus 4, x. It's minus 2. Okay. So let's look at what they have the same. They both have an x minus 4. Okay. This fraction, the first fraction, is missing a factor of x minus 2, right? So what if I multiplied both the numerator and denominator by this fancy looking number 1? Because that's just a fancy way to write the number 1. Okay. So then if I compare the second fraction to the first fraction, I notice that the second fraction is missing a factor of what? X minus 5. Another fancy number 2, right? It's just another way to write a fancy 2. I am not going to do anything to the denominators. I'm leaving it just like that. So my denominator is essentially x minus 5 times the quantity of x minus 4 times the quantity of x minus 2. I have to do something with my numerator. So if you notice, I have x minus 2 times x minus 3. I have to FOIL this out. What is x times x? X squared. What is x times negative 3? Negative 3x. What is negative 2 times x? What is negative 2 times negative 3? And to that, I'm adding, I'm going to put a great big plus sign here. I'm adding this. I have to take 2 and distribute it through the x minus 5. 2 times x is, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, right? So let's start combining some like terms because we have to clean up that numerator a little bit. So does anybody see anything? Does anyone see that they have a negative 2 and a positive 2x? Maybe you didn't see that because I crossed them out. Do you see this? You have a negative 2x added to a positive 2x. What do those two do to each other? They cancel each other out. So I'm really left with, let's see, I have x squared minus 3x. Yeah, this is supposed to be a 10. My 0 dropped off when I deleted some crazy stuff. Minus 4, I heard someone say, right? Over the denominator, x minus 5 times the quantity x minus 4 times the quantity x minus 2. We're almost there. So now, in order to do any kind of simplifying, we're going to have to factor that numerator. How can I factor x squared minus 3x minus 4? Probably it's got an x minus 4 in it. Otherwise, I don't have anything to cross off. Yeah. The numerator factors into x minus 4. times x plus 1 over x minus 5 times x minus 4 times x minus 2. Okay, so let's see. I can cancel out an x minus 4, x minus 4. So my final answer is the quantity x plus 1 over x minus 5 times the quantity of x minus 2. But I have to remember my excluded values. Remember, we can never let x equal 0. So what value right here would make this grouping be 0? 5. X cannot equal 5. Okay. What value right here, even though I crossed it off, would make a 0? So x cannot equal 4. And what about this value? What is it? 2. X cannot equal 2. Those are my excluded values. How do we feel about that? That's a lot. It's a lot. You have to do excluded values. And I'll post the answers to last night's homework. I want to do a couple of problems with you. And I wrote out all the excluded values. I just wanted you guys to focus on multiplying and dividing. Are we ready for the next one? Okay. So example B. Again, the first thing that you want to do is factor. You want to put these as like simplified, factored form as possible. So how can I simplify the first fraction? What does 4x squared and negative 1 have in common? They're both perfect. They're both perfect squares. So this is actually going to be the numerator, x plus 3 over the denominator, 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. Okay. Ooh, this has a minus sign in it. What should we do with that minus sign? Distribute it through the numerator. So I turned it into plus a negative. So to this, I'm adding a negative 4 over, how can I simplify? I can't really factor, but I can take a GCF out of the denominator. What is that? 5. And that leaves me with 2x plus 1. So what factor do they have in common? They have a 2x plus 1 in common. So what they don't have in common is the 5. That means I have to multiply the left side by 5 and the 2x minus 1, which is what I have to multiply the right side by. Remember that I'm not really changing the problem. I'm just multiplying by a fancy looking 1. 5 over 5 is still 1. Okay, so let's see. 5 times x is, and 5 times 3 is 15 over, let's see, in my numerator or in my denominator, I have 5 times the quantity of 2x minus 1 times the quantity of 2x plus 1. Again, don't FOIL out your denominator. That's a nightmare. Don't do that. Just, huh? Yeah, what did I write? Yeah, sorry, guys. A little bit of crazy. How about that? Okay, and what are we adding to it? So plus, what is negative 4 times 2x? Negative 8x. What is negative 4 times negative 1? Positive 4. Still over the same denominator, so I'm not going to change that. Now all we have to do is combine some like terms. 5x minus 8x is negative 3x. 15, I don't know why it keeps doing that. 15 plus 4 is all over 5 times 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. Is there anything I can do to the numerator? Like, is 19 divisible by 3? No, 19 is prime. That's it. That's all you can do. We just need to come up with excluded values. X cannot equal what? 1/2. A positive or a negative 1/2. Remember where this comes from. You take the factor 2x minus 1 and you set it equal to 0. When I set that equal to 0, I have to add 1 to both sides. 2x equals 1. Divide both sides by 2. And I find out that x equals 1/2. And I have a 2x minus 1 and a 2x plus 1, which means I'm going to have the same number, just the positive and the negative. So x cannot equal 1/2. That's my excluded value. How do we feel about that? Huh? It is long. Oh, it absolutely is long. No doubt about it. Absolutely. The thing that's hard about this is if you don't know how to factor, you're basically, yes, thank you for saying that. Yes. Okay. This one says your turn, but let's go ahead and do it together. How are we going to factor, or what do you want to do first? Say that again. Yeah, distribute that negative through the numerator. So it's really plus a -6. Don't forget that. I did my answer key last night and I messed up one of them. I had to scribble it out. You'll see it on the answer key. I was like, oh, I forgot to subtract. I added them. Okay. So how does x squared minus 4x factor? Yeah, this becomes x minus 2, x plus 2. That's what this is. Okay. How does this factor? X squared plus 8x minus 20. Yeah, positive 10, negative 2. X plus 10, x minus 2. So what factor do they have in common? They have the x minus 2 in common. So I have to take this factor, x plus 10, and that's what I'm multiplying the left side by. X plus 10 over x plus 10. And then I have to take this factor, and that's what I'm multiplying the right side by. X plus 2 over x plus 2. So let's simplify our numerator. X times x is x squared plus x times 10x is 10x plus negative, I'm trying to slide it down a little bit, negative 6 times x is, and negative 6 times a positive 2 is minus 12. Okay. Over, well, let's see, I have an x plus 10 and an x plus 2 and an x minus 2. All right, how can I factor or simplify the numerator? So what does it become? X squared. I didn't hear you, Kane. Yeah, plus 4x minus 12 over this hideous denominator, x plus 10 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. So we got to do some factoring in the numerator. How can I break up what two numbers can I multiply together to get a negative 12? Then when I add them, I get a positive 4. 6 and negative 2. So this guy factors into x plus 6 and x minus 2. What can I cross off? How about x minus 2, right? So I'm left with x plus 6 over the quantity of x plus 10 times the quantity of x plus 2. Let's talk about my excluded values. X cannot equal what? What would put a 0 in the denominator? A negative 10. What else would put a 0 in the denominator? A negative 2. What else would put a 0 in the denominator? Even though we canceled it out, if a positive 2. So do you guys remember how I write it? I write it as x cannot equal negative 10 and x cannot equal plus or minus 2. That's a lot. Okay. All right. So your guys' homework is pages 7 and 8. I want to do one addition problem with you and one subtraction problem with you. Is that okay? One addition and one subtraction. No, you didn't complete your homework either. One addition and one subtraction. So I'm going to do 2A and 2A is pretty easy. I'll do 3A and 6A. Is that okay? 3A and 6A. God bless you, you guys sneezing over there. 3A and 6A. So this is your homework. I'm going to do 3A and 6A with you because I think it's important. Shh, be nice. Here we go. So this is 3A. What should I do first? Every single time, what should I do to my numerator and denominator? Try to do what with these rational expressions? Say it loudly. Factor, look for a GCF. Absolutely. So can I do anything to the numerator? No. What about the denominator? Divided by 5. Take a 5 out. That's going to leave me with 5 times the quantity, x plus 5. Okay? Added to. Can I do anything to the numerator of the second fraction? No. 2x minus 3. What about the denominator of the second fraction? What two numbers can you multiply together to get a negative 40 that when you add them, you get a negative 3? Remember, this is the times and this is plus. X minus 8 and x plus 5. Okay. What do I have to multiply the first fraction by because it's missing this factor in its denominator? X minus 8 over x minus 8. It's a fancy looking number 1. That's it. What am I going to multiply the second fraction by because it's missing a factor in its denominator? 5 over 5. Okay. So now let's simplify. I'm going to take x times x, and that gives me x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. Are you two okay over there? Plus, I have to take 5 times 2x, which is 10x, and 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15. Remember, leave your denominator written as factors. I know it looks hideous, but who cares? I'm going to put the constant out first. 5 times the quantity of x minus 8 times the quantity of x plus 5. Don't try to FOIL that out. It's a nightmare. You don't need it. Combine your like terms in the numerator. What does that give you? What can I group together in the numerator, guys? Yeah, x squared plus 2x minus 15 over 5 times the quantity x minus 8 times the quantity of x plus 5. So I got to factor the numerator. Is there any way that I can multiply by 8 to get 15? No. So probably it's going to be the x plus 5 factor. Do you guys see how you can kind of decide what you need to use? So 5 times what is going to give you? Yeah. So this factors out to x plus 5, x minus 3 over 5 times x minus 8 times x plus 5. So cancel out. Well, I can take out an x plus 5 from both of them. So my final answer is x minus 3 over 5 times the quantity of x minus 8. My excluded values, x cannot equal positive 8, and x cannot equal negative 5. Okay, I'm going to do question 6A, and then I'm going to get you guys started. 6A, I'm moving on. 6A, I'll post this. 6A, here we go. It's a subtraction problem. The first thing I want you to do is distribute that through the numerator. Turn that into plus a negative, okay? Distribute it through the numerator. So how can I factor this first grouping, this first fraction? Say that again. Thank you. X plus 8 and x minus 4 plus negative 4 over, how can I factor x squared minus 16? X minus 4, x plus 4. It's a difference of two squares. Okay. So what factor is missing from the denominator of the first fraction? X plus 4. So we're going to multiply by a fancy x plus 4 over x plus 4. That's just a fancy one. What factor is missing from the denominator of the second fraction? X plus 8 over x plus 8. Again, just a fancy way to write the number 1. Okay? So we leave the denominator. Never FOIL out the denominator, ever. Let's see. I have to simplify this numerator. So x times x is x squared. X times 2, 2x. 4 times x plus 4x. And 4 times 2 plus 8. Plus, let's see, negative 4 times 8 is, or sorry, negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And negative 4 times a positive 8 is a negative 32. Over the whole denominator of x plus 4, x plus 8, x minus 4. Right? Remember, you cannot add or subtract fractions unless they have the same denominator. Let's simplify the numerator. What can I do? What can I combine? Yeah, good job, Max. 4x and negative 4x, they cancel each other out. Okay, what else? 8 and negative 32 give me 8 and negative 32 give me what? Negative 24. So I have x squared plus 2x minus 24 over x plus 4 times x plus 8 times x minus 4. You got to factor the numerator. So you have to ask yourself, let's see. I know that 8 goes into 24. That's going to be 8 times 3, and the difference is not going to give you 5. So it's not going to be the 8 factor. It's going to be the 4 factor. You have to decide which one are you going to use, the positive 4 or the negative 4. Well, the positive 4 times negative 6 is going to give you a negative 2 up top, right? So it's going to be the negative 4 and a positive 6. This factors out to x minus 4 times x plus 6. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for two numbers that are going to add together to give you that sum of 2x. So what cancels out? The x minus 4. So your numerator is x plus 6 over your denominator, the quantity of x plus 4 times the quantity of x plus 8. Let's talk about excluded values. X cannot equal what? X cannot equal negative 8. Negative 4 and positive 4. So are you okay if I write plus or minus 4? Are we good with that?